I got really angry last night on our video call with the Echoes of Recovery group, Sherry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's becoming increasingly frustrating for me to hear people tell their story as the partner of an alcoholic about how when they try to bring up the drinking or the behavior associated with the drinking or the excessiveness of the drinking, that immediately gets thrown back in their face as okay, yeah, maybe, but what about your high anxiety or the fact that you're a control freak or the fact that you do X, Y, and Z? It's like, let's ignore the, bleeding artery and worry about the stub toe. Like, that's really frustrating to watch people not acknowledge the fact that alcohol, maybe it's not the only problem, but it's the primary problem. And it's the cause of the other problems as well. How does that feel for you as the partner, as the loved one of an alcoholic, when you hear other people talk like that? Does that remind you of how I used to behave when I was a drinker and you would bring up my alcohol consumption?
Yeah, and well, I really felt, I don't know, like neglected or ignored or gaslit because when I would bring up issues that I had, they were just really side effects involved with the drinking, I would say 98% of the time. Like maybe your quick response or your snappy behavior or your buffoonery when you were drinking, even before the addiction set in, that I felt like those were all things that I was responding and reacting to, and that those were issues that had built up over time to become resentments within me. But, like, for example, the anxiety. I remember when I was approaching you about that I was feeling anxious, and you would always I would get really anxious before travel because most of the time it meant that you were not working, so therefore there was more alcohol consumption.
Boondoggle.
Yeah, more alcohol consumption. And so when I tried to approach you about that, you made it seem like it was this terrible problem and I had some sort of, thing that was in me. But I never was like an anxious child. I wasn't an anxious teenager. I wasn't an anxious adult. This was something that happened over time. And it was my nervous system screaming out, telling me something was wrong. But when I asked, like, hey, I think I have this, I'm going to go to the doctor, you were like so annoyed that I was going to have to take medication when you were medicating yourself. And so I felt like, my goodness, mine is like a prescribed dose guided by a doctor of a very mild anti-anxiety, and you're just drinking, however much you want alcohol wise, and that's supposed to help you feel better. So it was gaslighting, it was insensitive, I thought it was selfish, and I thought, and it's your problem, it's your fault. And I think that along with the what we've now discovered as like emotional safety, I wasn't able to express my feelings to you. I wasn't able to express my worries. If I brought up issues, it was, they were kind of mocked or made fun of, or you told me how to handle it, like you had all the answers, you know. So my personality and my outward actions were side effects of the alcohol.
For a long time, my insensitive, selfish gaslighting was effective, at least outwardly. Maybe on the inside, you knew what was up, but outwardly, a lot of the times, I could stifle you from talking about the thing that was my problem, the alcohol consumption or the behaviors associated. I could knock you down with my gaslighting. But eventually, you got to the point where you were too strong for that and you detached from me emotionally. And you basically said, listen, I know what's going on here and I'm not going to take this anymore. And it started to have less of an effect on you when I would say, oh, you're just trying to control the situation. Don't you understand? This is how adults behave when they come home from work. They drink alcohol to relax. You're the one with the problem, Sherry. You're the one with the drinking problem because you don't understand that. Mm-hmm. How did you get to the point? Because that's what I struggle with when I see people that are on whom the gaslighting is having an effect. Like, alcohol's a toxin. It's, yes, we've accepted it into our society like a cure-all for everything. And yeah, that's a ridiculous thing that we did several hundred years ago. But it's just a toxin. And if there's distress in your relationship, it might not be the only reason for it, but it's certainly the top line reason and the reason that's causing a lot of the other reasons. Mm-hmm. How did you get to the point where you just stopped taking my bullshit?
Well, I think it just was a matter of time. I didn't learn anything. I wasn't like in any sort of support groups. I didn't even look hardly on the internet because I was so worried about like you searching, because the conversation and me calling you an alcoholic or you have an alcohol problem created such a big disconnect between us and tension and arguments. I think it was just a matter of me being done and kind of really, like, there were things that you said throughout the relationship that I think that a lot of alcoholics say. And I never really believed those. Like, that's how everybody drinks. I don't feel like it. I'm watching. I'm seeing, like, in the party, who's drinking more? You are. Clearly you are. And I was even, like, thinking to myself, like, people do drink more at parties. That just happens. People drink more when it's free. That just happens. So I was taking that into account. So I did feel like I had started to gain some listening to some of my own instincts. But it was really just a matter of like, this is just wrong. I can't believe this shit anymore because it's wrong. I knew it in my gut. I knew it in my heart. I knew it in my brain. I knew it in my soul. I knew some of these things were inappropriate and wrong.
You mentioned your personality earlier. I think we are incredibly lucky that you have the personality that you have. I always said one of the reasons that I was initially attracted to you was because of how spunky you are. And I didn't realize that was going to be valuable in my sobriety and the recovery of both of us eventually. You not only realized it, we do meet a lot of people who realize it, but then because they're afraid of what the reaction is going to be, they have trouble communicating with their partner. Listen, this is you. This is the alcohol. This is not normal, and I'm not going to take your bullshit anymore. And you were much more forceful and more willing to go there than I think a lot of people are. And so I'm just really thankful for your personality. And now I'm thankful for your leadership. And I hope a lot of the people that we interact with will see the value of standing up for yourself and defending what you know is right and how it can have a long-term positive impact. Sometimes it doesn't work out. You can't change the alcoholic, the non-drinker, the partner. They can't change the alcoholic, but they can detach to the point where the alcoholic is at a crossroads and has to make a decision, has to make a choice. And at least some of the time, we are going to choose you. I will always choose you. Sherry, I feel like if I move over just a little further, it looks like I'm interviewing you in the jungle. That's quite a plant we've got there.
Well, that's what stagers like.
That's lovely. If you'd like to hear more of our opinionated ramblings, please check out the Untoxicated podcast.
And if you're more of the reading type, go to soberandunashamed.com.
If you're picking up what we're laying down, you might be ready to find your tribe. Please check out shoutsobriety.org or echoesofrecovery.org and check us out. Find your tribe. We get what you're going through. You've got this, and we've got you.